This conference will now be recorded.
Jared and Rachel, you ready?
Yes.
All right. Well, this will be the Invest in Willmar Robbins Island public presentation for March 2nd. Just want to welcome everyone. Tonight's presentation will be about the second phase of the Invest in Willmar Robbins Island project. Just to recap, the first phase again was the parking lot, the road and the water main improvements that started late this summer and will finish earlier this spring. A big thank you goes out to the mayor and the members of the Willmar City Council, the Invest in Willmar Committee, Willmar's Park and Recreation Board, the Robbins Island Subcommittee, City of Willmar staff, and the IT department. And of course, the citizens of Willmar for making this project become a reality. The meeting will consist of a PowerPoint presentation followed by a question and answer segment. The presentation will be recorded and live streamed on Rack 8, and the recording will be posted later on the city website. After the presentation is over, the community members can call in for comments. Callers must dial in the area code and this number, 320-335-7135. At this time, I'll turn it over to Rachel Skedbeck. She is the chair of the Robbins Island Subcommittee. Take it away, Rachel.
Thank you, Rob. Hi, everyone. I am Rachel. I've been involved with the Robbins Island Subcommittee for the last 2 years now, and we are very excited to showcase our area, what we have done and what we hope to complete this year. With some of the master planning that has been done to Robbins Island over the last 5 to 7 years, I think it's nice that we are now putting that into reality and everyone will be able to see that this summer. Jared has been wonderful to work with Bolton and me, so I appreciate everyone to listen, and if they have any questions, to write them down and call in at the end. So without further ado, Jared, take it away.
All right, well, thanks Rachel and Rob for the introduction. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here and get the presentation started. Could I get a confirmation that everybody can see that adequately?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, as Rob mentioned, this is a presentation for the shelter and lighting improvements tonight. We're going to discuss some of the concepts that the subcommittee has developed. We'll review some of the floor plans for the various shelters that are being considered as part of the improvement. Review some of the proposed materials for those shelters, discuss the anticipated schedule, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions. All right, so from a site plan perspective, this kind of gives an overview of the entire island and what's been discussed as part of the subcommittee. The yellow circles on the map around the parking lot and then along this main access road are lights that are being contemplated for the project. And I wanted to note that the lights along the access road and the parking lot areas, those are more of your standard typical street light that you see around town. They're often referred to as shoebox style lights to light the roadway and then some of the parking areas. You'll notice that they're not super closely spaced together out of respect for glare and things like that, but ultimately it'll provide some lighting for people and motorists utilizing the access road and the parking lots. Along the northwest side of the island, these lights here are actually proposed to be bollards to provide some lighting along this trail. There has been some discussion about the potential of actually extending this those bollard style lights along the trail on the east side as well. So that's still being finalized. The green circles that you see throughout the area are actually proposed tree locations. Originally, the committee discussed including those as part of the project. However, working closely with public works staff, they do an annual tree order, and to maximize the funds associated with this project, they can actually obtain those trees through their annual tree order much more efficiently and cost effectively. So that was a project or a cost savings measure that the committee is definitely interested in, and that's the plan for the tree installation moving forward. The shelters that we're going to be discussing tonight are first open shelter number 1. Currently, one thing I did want to point out here is, as the committee was talking about the open shelter number 1 in particular, currently that shelter is oriented more north and south, but one of the points that was brought up is that orienting it more in a northwest fashion would provide an opportunity for the patio area or the covered area of the shelter to have a better view of the beach and the lakes. So that is the orientation that's been identified. Moving north and west, we have the GURI shelter building, and we'll discuss the improvements being proposed for that. The third shelter being considered as part of the project is the HILLTOP shelter. And then finally, open shelter number 2 near the new turnaround that was constructed with phase 1 of the project. This slide ultimately, as it's titled, identifies the proposed floor plan for shelter number 1. You'll note that this shelter is 40 by 20, and then out the front of it, there's actually an overhang of 20 feet. So that will accommodate 4 picnic tables on the outside. And then the concrete pad, it was an important item that the committee discussed, the fact that sometimes people just want to be outside and not under a roof. And so that concrete pad was developed to accommodate an additional 2 picnic tables for people that don't necessarily want to be under a roof. A couple of things about the shelter itself, starting down here. It was identified that a service counter, both outward and inward rather, facing, be provided, so that in the event the space was used for whatever type of event you might have, there's a spot to put food for people to share throughout their gathering. Moving to the east or northeast, there is a access door into the open area. You'll notice some windows there, and then this is an additional service counter. There was a lot of discussion about the potential future use of this shelter building, and it was determined to be important to set this up so that should a portion of the shelter, should a portion of its use change, for example, I know previously it was talked about potential rentals at the beach and things of that nature. And since those plans haven't been solidified, the committee felt it was important to at least set this shelter up so that it could be accommodated in the future. This service counter, as we saw in the site plan, essentially would be facing east. Another access door into this area should this space be divided in the future, so that would provide access at both ends. And then ultimately a garage door here that would provide access into the building should it be used for some type of storage. The group felt that that was important to accommodate these things as part of the initial plan, so that as it moved forward into the future, we weren't modifying the exterior of a new building immediately. So that's a summary of shelter number 1. Shelter number 2, this is the shelter again in the northwest corner of the site. There's a rendering there in the bottom for you, 2-tiered roof system. Again, this shelter is also 40 by 20. This countertop is a feature that was discussed as part of the subcommittee to provide an opportunity for people, again, to have a potluck or serve food or whatever type of arrangement they might find useful for that shelter as they rent it. Definitely provides an option for people to gather and share a meal or a picnic. The other thing that I did want to point out is you'll see these L's on the side of the building, or on the posts corners. These are actually seating areas, which would provide additional seating around the perimeter of the building. The gray areas with the black circles in the middle, those are actual posts of the building, and you'll note them in this rendering on the bottom. The intent would be to outline those posts with a stone or rock material as part of the construction of the project. You'll note that 8 6-foot picnic tables are accommodated inside the shelter, and that's a summary of shelter number 2. Moving on to the Hilltop shelter. Again, a 20 by 40 structure, and we've identified a electrical room in that corner. As part of the discussions with this project, the subcommittee discussed the existing Hilltop shelter's use for Celebrate the Light festivities, and the fact that some of the electrical service and things of that nature are utilized in that building. So there's a dedicated room for that, as well as the opportunity to get cables and electrical wires into the building itself, so that for that event, that shelter could be utilized. Many windows proposed on the shelter, and then again a double door to provide access into the space for the people that are utilizing it. GURI shelter, just by way of reference and orientation, currently the south side of GURI has the access door, the fold or the bifold or the double door, and then out the west side there's another double door. So this is actually a floor plan of what the space is contemplated to look like following construction. You'll notice that the access to the shelter is relocated to the north side, or the playground side of the building. The existing double door is replaced with a single door. There's a couple unique rooms in GURI as it exists today. Those were converted to electrical and storage to accommodate the existing equipment that's within that building, and provide a storage area in there as well. Other item I'd like to note is that there is also a counter proposed on this east wall to provide an opportunity for people to set things as they have gatherings, whether that be food or what they might be able to use that for. So that's a outline of that building. There will be a concrete pad out in front, similar as it is today. And then along the south side, the group has discussed some landscaping to really potentially break old habits of people that might not have been out to the island for a while and think that the access is on the south side when it's relocated to the north. So that will be, those are the proposed changes to GURI. From a materials standpoint, one of the topics that was discussed is the reflection of the existing four-season shelter at the island, and making these shelters relatively consistent with the theme that's already been established out there. The group felt that was important. I'll note that this is metal roofing that's shown, and then a burnished block similar to the four season shelter, along with the lap siding. This provides a little bit of a visualization of what those seating areas on open shelter number 2 would look like incorporated into that shelter. I will note that we know that costs are relatively difficult to predict right now, but these shelters are being set up with the budget in mind, that in the event that the prices are not favorable, the construction can continue to proceed with the removal of perhaps some of the features that match the Four Seasons, particularly block and things of that nature. So definitely conscious of that budget, and setting this project up to make sure that the project remains within that. The project schedule, obviously tonight, this is the public presentation. On the 10th, the project is scheduled to be reviewed by the Invest in Willmar board. Then following that, on the 17th, the park board, the day after, public works, and then the city council presentation on April 5th is the identified schedule. Should council recommend to proceed with the project at that point, then the bidding would occur in the month of April, with bids to be received and brought back to council on May 3rd for their consideration. And that would allow construction to begin in late June or late May, early June, after the contracts are processed for the project. And with that, that concludes the presentation this evening. And Rob, I'll turn it back over to you or members of the public that have questions.
Thank you, Jared. I just want to add one more thing to your presentation. As our committee has been meeting the last 2 years with yourself, I just want to let the community know that we really have been talking with public works staff on what works best for them and what in their parks, and when it comes to yearly maintenance of things, and also the type of events that we have out there at Robbins Island, and how we want to see the future of how we set things up. So people on our committee are with the Rockin' Robbins committee, they're with Celebrate the Lights. And so we're all trying to do our best to work together and be a team player and make sure we're all helping each other out when it comes to just helping do events better, and also helping with yearly maintenance costs for the city staff.
All right, great. Thanks, Rachel and Jared. At this time, we're going to do the question and answer segment. So if there's anyone that's on the call right now that has some questions, they can ask them. I'm looking at our queue right now. It doesn't look like anyone has called in yet. You're free to stay on to listen, but the presentation is over. But we will still stay on till 8 o'clock for the question and answers if someone does call in and has a comment to make. And again, if the public's out there and they want to make a comment, they need to call in, and the area code is 320-335-7135. So if you want to talk about it, we can, or we can just wait to see what we got for public calls.
Mr. Baumgarn, we have no public callers at this time.
All right, thank you. Okay, I believe we got a call or a question from Shelby from the West Central Tribune. So Shelby, if you just want to turn your mic on, you can ask the questions.
Thank you. What is the budget for this second phase? I mean, what kind of money was left over after phase one? Do you hear me?
I can
Rob,
take,
Okay.
Rob, do you want to take that?
I think our more accurate numbers are probably going to come from Jared. Jared, do you have
Okay.
those handy? I'm going to say that,
Yeah.
with the road, I'll just let him answer it.
sure. So to answer Shelby's question, the remaining funds associated with the project after the roadway and parking areas was completed was 1.3 million.
All right. And are you expecting that this phase two will be the last phase for Robbins Island, or do you have like a phase three just in case?
I believe this is our last phase. If
Okay.
we can, it all comes in at a good budget. Our total budget for Robbins Island with the local option sales tax is 3 million. So with contingency fees and fees to Bolton and Mink, we're hoping that we can get it done this year with our remaining budget.
All right. And then the shelter plans, are these like brand new shelters replacing what's already out there, or is this like remodeling what's out there?
It is in the same locations as the ones that are out there, but essentially it will be to take apart and redo.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Shelby.
you.
This will be the process now that it will be kind of quiet now for probably the next half hour if we don't get any callers. So again, if you're logged on and you've seen the presentation, you can surely stay on if you want. Otherwise, you can log off. Totally up to you, but it's probably going to be quiet for the next 30 minutes or so.
This is Paul Cool, committee member. I just wanted to go ahead and thank Jared. I wanted to thank Kurt, all the other committee members. It took a lot of synergy to get together and timing and to figure this out and look at what's good for the community. And I think, we did our due diligence and we came in under budget depending on, how prices come out. But I think all in all, the community, the whole region will be very satisfied with the way this turns out. Thank you.
I would like to add on to what Paul Cool just said. For our committee members that have been involved the last 2 years, with the city, Rob and Kurt Hine with Public Works, Jared with Bolton and Mink, James Miller, Mary LaRue, Paul Cool, our new councilperson Osk, Joy Baker, Jason Grabinger, Steve Neprath, and then myself. So we had a diverse group with all different interests, but same goal of wanting to improve Robbins Island. So I want a big shout out to our committee for your patience and attending and your input.
Okay. Rob, we have Dennis Benson on the line. He'd like to ask a couple questions.
Okay,
All right, yeah, okay. Yeah, we're really hopeful that we're going to be able to have community band concerts this summer at the park. And I logged on just a little bit late here, so you may have already covered this, but I'm wondering about the parking lots and when they're going to be finished. We're hoping to start like June 9th.
Rob, I can take that one. So the contractor has indicated as soon as the weather permits, they're going to be getting out there and wrapping those up. A couple of things that need to be done for sure. Well, as you've noticed, if you've been out there, the remaining layer of asphalt needs to be installed. The west boat access parking also needs to be paved. So, and then of course, turf restoration and making sure that everything is seeded and is appropriately established. So I guess I'm speculating a little bit as to exactly when they're going to finish, not knowing the weather, but our expectation is that it will be completed in early June. So certainly as those events begin to occur and as we get portions of that project wrapped up, definitely reach out to us or Rob and staff, and we can make sure that we accommodate as much as we can while the project is being completed.
Okay.
yeah, Dennis.
All right, that's good for now.
Yeah, Dennis, just get a hold of us for the Showmobile reservations, and we can kind of keep you up to speed about what the progress of the project is going to be. So we get it onto the schedule.
Yeah,
so we
we're
can make sure that you know what's going on with it.
Yeah, we have to decide if we're even going to use the showmobile. Because of COVID, we may have to spread the band members out further and may have to just sit on the ground, but that'll be determined later, and I'll be in touch for all that.
Okay. Just so you know too, we do have that portable stage that can be available as well if we need to get groups up a little bit higher. That they're 4x8 sections.
Oh,
so
okay.
If we need to do that, we can bring that out as well for you. Those are at the Civic
Okay,
Center.
that's good to know. Yep. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Dennis.
Yep, bye.
Rachel, this is probably just a reminder for you is to make sure that we can get this onto the Invest in Wilmer agenda for, has to get to Janelle by the 5th.
For, oh, the
To get-
city council
to-
presentation?
No, for the Invest in Wilmer. So you'll have to tell Janelle that the presentation's coming on. I'll take it for the 17th for the Park and Rec Board and for the Public Works.
Okay. So email Janelle, ask her to be put on the agenda for Jared and I to present at the next week's meeting? Okay.
Yep.
Okay with you, Jared?
Yeah, that'll work.
And then Jared, on the 17th, it'll be at 1:30. And I'm thinking that we're going to maybe do this out at the Four Seasons. I know Chair Anderson of the Park and Rec Board would like to do the meetings in person. So I still have to talk to the city administrator if we can, or if we're allowed to do that, but they're going to have it in person. So maybe a little bit different format that way.
Okay, can you remind me again what time the meeting on the 10th is, please?
I believe it's at 4 o'clock. And I'm guessing that will be held virtually again. And then on the 17th, Park and Rec will be 1:30. And then on the 18th, it'll be at 4:30 for Public Works.
And that potentially would be virtually also, as the current situation is.
Yeah, for Public Works, it's been virtual.
Okay.
So the IT guys need some Quick Trip glazed donuts for helping out tonight. They've had back-to-back nights. So I'll bring those to you, Ross, tomorrow.
Thank you.
Greenfield.
We're gonna go to 9 o'clock then if they get the Greenfield ones. But we still got some diehards in there. James is still hanging on, and so is Kurt. Now, if we were able to do an open house, this would be a little bit different where you can chit chat, but it seems a little bit different when you're on a virtual meeting.
Correct.
And you wonder what, this has been a nice feature to have, but I still think it probably hampered the whole process to a point where people aren't able to come out and actually see it, touch it, because we could have had the open house at the Four Seasons Shelter so people can actually kind of see more things on site, or even have a tour, with it being as nice as it is. Kurt could have led it.
True, you just have to deal with a little bit of slush and mud. But you can still walk the area.
I definitely see that area getting used a lot more in the summertime. I mean, in the wintertime. If we clear the path, that's going to be extremely busy.
Yes, with the amount of sunshine that gets in there with all the windows, it was a great design feature.
Mm-hmm.
It's very bright.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to use the walking path too, because they know it's going to be able to go out, park their car, go for a little walk, then come back. I think it's going to be a huge addition to the backside of the island.
After our meeting today, I saw 2 people do that. It's a nice 4-mile loop if you go all the way around.
Well, I can honestly tell you my feet have never seen 4 miles in one setting. Mine was 40 yards. That's all I had to do was 40 yards.
Well, there you go. That'll be your goal for 2021, to do the whole loop. You park at the All Season Shelter, you go towards downtown to Bria's Playground and loop back by the radio station, by Hedeen Park, and get back into Robbins Island.
Yeah, I would have to really work up to that. This body hasn't done a whole lot the last 10 years for physical activity. Yeah.
Small goals.
I just love the fact that everything you just said is for the record now, and we can hold that against you.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. So,
well, I'm a reflection of those comments as well, so that's good.
Yeah, when been active, all through college and years after college, but then when you sit down and that's the majority of your day is 85 to 90% of your day sitting, it adds on quick.
Well, at the end of the day, I think the usability of this space out at Robbins Island, and this is something that's been talked about going back to when we revisited the master plan, 7-8 years ago, the idea of creating more usable space. And I do think it's going to get used more and more and more and more. And it's such a gem for our community, whether you're going out there to walk or you're coming to a concert in the summer or the lights in the winter. The usable space that'll be here now with the additions and changes to the shelters are really going to be phenomenal. And when Shelby asked, is there a stage 3? And obviously, as part of the local option sales tax, this is the end of the process. But there's still growth to happen at Robbins Island in years to come, and different projects that are going to be out there to again add the amenities and add the facilities that can really enhance the park and the park system. And that's exciting to be part of.
Yeah, those are great points. I did get an email today from a community member saying that they weren't able to make it. She wanted to know if an amphitheater was part of this project, and I said no, but it has been part of our discussions for a future project, so definitely.
Well, there was a lot of good discussion about within the master plan of what can come out there, and again, this is a good start for us. There's a lot of things we can we can continue to build and add on to, especially with that beautiful trail now, as Rachel's talked about. It is fun to see how many people are out there walking it. Whether it's summer, spring, winter, fall, it's going to get used, and it just creates a great space for the community to gather together, whether we're having a meal or enjoying the beach or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's exciting. The amphitheater obviously is something that I think there's a lot of people still talking about and hoping at some point that'll come, that amphitheater / band shell idea. So it'll be pretty exciting once we see more things come out there.
Well, when we're dealing with COVID and everything this past summer, we were getting calls like crazy for shelters because everyone had to do things outside, and we're getting them now. So it's gradually opening up, and more people are going to be able to use them. We're going to have to look at the schedule and see how we're going to stage certain shelters. If we're going to just say, none of them are available besides the Four Season, we'll just have to talk to Jared and look at the planning that way to see if we're going to be able to still let people use GURI if it's not being renovated, and HILLTOP, etc.
Kind of the order of how we see the project getting done.
Yeah, that I've told Ryan to basically hold off on shelter reservations for the other shelters right now, just not knowing what the plan was going to be. So we're filtering everyone to the Four Season right now, just to be safe, or to Rice Park, or using those ones. And I think in a couple years too, I want to say actually it might be 22 or 23 that the next community park is supposed to be on the docket to be relooked at. That's Northside Park, to be revamped, very similar to what Rice Park was done.
That'll be nice.
Yep, and then the last one would be Lincoln.
Okay.
But we got it approved for the new park signage too. I don't know if you guys have seen the new Rao Park sign, but that was donated by the Kiwanis, but we're going to now be able to put a couple new signs every year for the park. So new signage will be a nice addition to our park system too, and nice and clean. They'll actually have park information on the back side of them, or information about other parks or the bike share program, etc. So it'll be neat.
I've seen that sign, and that's great. We need some more consistent uniformity with that within our park system. So I think that those look great, and easy maintenance, cost effective. And like James was saying, as we look at the future of this gem of a park and what the future entails for event planning, there's always that opportunity. If Rockin' Robbins becomes as successful as we hope it to be, it could grow from just 4 concerts to more, and that's when they want to use potentially those fundraising dollars back into the park whenever we want to help them and meet those needs of the park. If once we're ready for that amphitheater, or if the barn theater is wanting to do have a summer program where it's outdoor plays, there's all things to look at, but we're not there yet, I feel, but we will get there.
Well, and other thing too is, Kurt's worked on the beach too, as far as, having those cutouts of those dogs. So that's helped. But if we get more activity out there too, the geese will go away. And now we've got the new format for, the water quality. So, with the red flag and green flag. So for PR wise, I think that will be a nice look out there, instead of having signs saying, beach closed and everything. People will just be able to look at the flag and see how the water quality is at that time.
And we're still going to be having some grassy area for when people are going to hopefully be so busy renting these shelters and buildings that they can play with the outdoor volleyball, correct? outdoor volleyball court? Or did that get rid of?
Nope, the volleyball courts are still there.
Okay,
And then
wonderful.
yeah, and we're still gonna be looking at that dressing room to probably remove that. And then that whole, where that one parking lot was, that's all gonna be green space now. So there's gonna be quite a bit of green space.
Great. Over the weekend, when I walked the loop of Robbins Island, way towards the front or the south end of the park, closer to the highway 71, there were people who brought their own soccer nets and cones and were playing soccer in what grassy area they could find where the snow had melted already.
Oh, yeah. There's, if the snow's gone, people are going to try to play soccer as fast as they possibly can. And as great as that is, it is tough on the turf.
Yes, exactly.
But, you know, and hopefully in a week or so, we'll know about the turf fields out at the Civic Center location. So we'll have opportunities for people to play soccer. Actually, they could have probably played today because the fields probably would have been melted off.
Wow.
You know, if we brush it off and everything, those fields will melt real fast with that black rubber in there.
Okay.
Well, we got a couple minutes left before we can sign off. So just thank you to Jared, Rachel, James, everyone that stayed on, IT department, the latecomer, Kurt Hine. So thanks for everyone for making this happen. All good things are going on. A lot of good things are going on in Willmar.
Thanks, Rob, to you two for helping us keep in line in our timeline and keep moving this project forward.
Not a problem. It's been good to work with you guys. It's been an interesting course here with dealing with the Invest in Willmar projects all coming at once, basically, and now we're coming in with the curling facility as well. So a lot of things are happening. A lot of things.
And I'd echo those sentiments too. The committee was fantastic to work with, definitely dedicated to the project and stayed on task and provided the answers and direction needed to keep everything moving. So yeah, it's been great with the committee, Rob and Kurt, and all the help that everybody's provided. So it was definitely a good team effort, and we're looking forward to getting these shelters done so people can start using them.
Yep, we will be busy with those shelters. I just know it.
I want to thank Rob for reminding me about the meeting tonight. My wife had to, she was late coming home, so I had a late supper ready for her, and I totally blew it off. So thanks, Rob. You're the man.
I got your back, Kurt. Don't worry about it. All right, it has reached 8 o'clock. We will sign off. Thanks for everyone for attending, and we'll see you at the Invest in Willmar and down the road. Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
Ross,
you.
Dave, Rudy.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
guys.